We are going to start part 2 of today's event by focusing on Forecaster for Microsoft Dynamics ERP. I'm going to welcome Noah Mosley back from MSX Group to take it away. Noah, welcome.
Thanks. It's good to be here. We've got a good session for everyone today looking at Microsoft Forecaster and setting up Forecaster for your fiscal budget. If I have not met you yet, my name is Noah Mosley. I am with the MSX Group, and we are a consulting practice, and we specialize in training classes, webinars like this, consulting services, and software support for Forecaster as well as Management Reporter, FRX, and Prospero. And if you need help with these products after today's session, email is the best way to get in touch with me at noah.mosley@msxgroup.com. This webinar, we're going to look at basic budgeting inside Forecaster. And before we jump into the application itself, I want to make sure that everybody understands what Forecaster does for us exactly. Forecaster is a Microsoft application, and you can use Forecaster for any of your GL systems, AX, GP, NAV, or SL. There's also some other non-Dynamics packages that are supported also from the past. You'll use Forecaster for budgeting, forecasting, planning, anything you want to do that helps you monitor or target for next year or the upcoming revenue, expenses, balance sheet, cash flow, anything in the future here. All the data that you store in the Forecaster application is stored back in a single SQL database, so everything has one central location. So all your budget managers, they all open up Forecaster in their workstations, they save it, it all goes back to that one central location that everybody shares. And for the IT side of things, you can use Forecaster with pretty much any version of SQL, so SQL 2012, 14, all the way up to the newest version, 16. As well as any of the latest Windows operating systems, 7, 8, and 10. Forecaster works well with all of those versions there. For the scenario we're looking at for this session, we're going to look at setting up a new fiscal budget, and we're going to say it's going to go from July 1st of this year through June 30th, 2017. And let me share my screen with us. And I'll take us over to Forecaster. So I've got the homepage Forecaster on my screen. Before I start building the new fiscal input screens, let's look at what I've used for another budget version here. So if I go to Data and Input, I have set up one previously for our calendar budget 2016. And looking at how this one is set up, I've got a list of account numbers on the left-hand side here. These are all listed in a line set. So when you're building these input screens, you're using line sets to list whatever shows up on the left-hand side of the screens here. You're using column sets to decide what columns are listed across the top of the page here. This one has got January 2016 budget all the way through December and the annual total on the right. When we do hours, we'll do hours from July 2016 through June 2017. And then there's also a calculation set that has any formulas that you want to tie to any of these different rows, columns, or individual cell references. And these are calculations that you as a budget administrator would set up and your budget managers would not be able to overwrite. So all those we use to set up our input screens to look just like this or any variation. You control what columns show up, what rows show up, the calculations, the colors, the font sizes, all that. And I'll walk you through setting those up here inside Forecaster. And if you have questions as I go through this, just type those in that chat box on that WebEx panel for us. Jason will help me watch those as I go throughout the session. Be glad to take those as we go.
We do have one question at the start here.
Awesome.
Just wondering what software packages can Forecaster be used with?
So Forecaster can be used with AX, GP, NAV, SL, and in the past, Microsoft used to sell Forecaster with non-Dynamics people, non-Dynamics general ledger packages. So it really doesn't matter what GL package you have. Forecaster is a separate application and a separate SQL database. We just copy your chart of accounts from whatever GL system you have. Usually we'll go pull it out to Excel, rearrange it, and paste it into Forecaster. So it's really independent of your GL package. If you do not currently own Forecaster, the only new licenses that you can get is if you are using AX, GP, NAV, or SL. Good deal. Thank you, Jason. So to pull this screen together for us, or for the new fiscal budget, I want to build a new line set, very similar to what we have here, a new column set for all the different periods, calculations for some of these subtotals for us, a new input set. And I'll start us off with the period. So it's kind of like your calendar inside Forecaster. I need to set up a calendar for our new fiscal year. So for that, there is a wizard that helps us walk through and set that up. I'll close out of this window. And all the wizards are under Tools and Wizards, and I've got one for a period wizard. Just a few windows here. We will have 12 periods for this fiscal year. I'll start with period 1, which will be July for us. Period prefix, I'll use FB for fiscal budget. And this is our 2017 fiscal year. In book code, I'll do the lookup and select budget. One window here, this really helps us decide how our period IDs look. So you can see an example at the bottom of how these periods will look when it completes the wizard. FB for fiscal period, I've got 4 digits for the year, and then a period number. On the next page, we'll decide how we want the descriptions to show up for all these periods. Our periods are months. First one is July. So at the bottom, I see an example of what it's filling in for us. And let's also put in here the word budget. And I do that space semicolon because when I use these descriptions in our column definition, the semicolon is like a hard return, so it puts the word budget underneath July 2017. For any column totals you can have on these input screens, or for your reports, you can have all the year-to-date totals throughout the whole year. You can have quarterly totals on these reports or input screens. Or if you just care about the annual total, we'll just pick that, and you can use that for your input screens and for your reports. The screen here, just a quick snapshot of what we are about to build for our period IDs and descriptions, so that we can then use this in our column definitions. And I'm doing this for our fiscal year, so this July would actually be calendar 2016. You can leave it to 17 if you like. Typically, I'll go through these and make changes so that the year reflects the calendar year in the descriptions. A few changes here. I'll leave the 17s in the ID column for the periods and for that year column on the right. Got all the July 2016 through December. Everything else will be 2017 calendar years. And then at the very bottom, I've got that one annual total, just a range of all the values from the first period through the 12th period. So Forecaster will go out and create all those periods for us like a calendar inside Forecaster. And then we can use those for our column definitions and then in our input screens and our reports. Okay, so that created a calendar for us. That gives us periods that we can store money to in the Forecaster SQL database. Now, it does not change anything back in your GL package. It's independent of that. So don't worry about making any changes to the GL data. But now that we have the periods started, they're waiting for us to use for our input streams and reports, we need to take those period IDs and use those in the column definitions. So to build the column definitions, top left, we'll go to Build and Columns. I've already have several in the past I've used, but let me start a new one here. And this will be for our fiscal budget, 2017. You can use a wizard. Actually, I'll start one without the wizard and show you how to build this, just pulling everything in the column definition itself. So in a brand new column definition, there's a lot of different fields here. I can do the plus icon at the top to add new rows here. I can also right-click and insert these options automatically from our list of segments, which our period IDs are considered segments inside Forecaster. So I'll select period here. I'll have a list of all the available options. The ones that I want would be all these fiscal budget period references from period 1, July 2016, all the way through June 2017. And I want all of those, plus I do want that extra column at the bottom that has the total for all those 12 months. I have all those highlighted. I click OK. That gets brought back into our column definition here. We've got the column IDs in that left-hand column, the labels that will show up on the input screens and for the reports, codes for calculations if I need those, but I probably will not for this example. And then I'll just save those changes. And I've only added 13 columns to this definition here. You can add as many columns as you need to. If you need budget columns right beside actuals, and then a variance column for every one of those monthly columns, you can do all those right here. So I've started our column definition. I've saved it. We can close out of here. I'll go to File and Close. Close this one too. And I'm back to our home page for Forecaster. Now, to do our line sets for this input screen, I'll need to make a new line set. If you already have one out there, you could reuse that. I do have one, but I'm going to make a brand new one for us. And just to remind you what is going to be in that one, this is one that we use for the 2016 budget. In my line set, I'm going to have header rows for salaries, benefits, and taxes. I'll do them for supplies and services. You'll have the accounts in those sections. I'll bring those into the line set definition. Each one of these sections will have a total row at the bottom, a little bit of formatting for color. And I'm going to make a brand new one just to show you how to build those from scratch. The same location as where we built the column definition, I'll go back to Build, and then I'll select Lines. I will start as a new one, and I'll just call this Fiscal Budget Input. And I can add anything I want to here, but I'll start off with my section headers. And I'll just right-click, Insert Section. These are my headers for my 3 different sections. And I was going to add salaries as a header row, as well as benefits and taxes, and supplies and services. All those get listed here, section 1, 2, and 3. I can reorganize these any which way you need to. I'll just click and hold the margin on the left, drag that to the top. So easy to reorganize those. Next, I'm going to add my account numbers for those different sections and subtotals. But I also want to do some formatting for these 3 header rows. So I'll just highlight all 3 of these. And in the color column, I'll double click. And background, let's just go in. I'll select, we'll try blue, see how that comes out for us. Maybe white text. for the font color. And then font styles or settings, I'll double click under font. And let's make that bold. So a little bit of formatting for all those there. Next, let me go in here and add in the account numbers for that section. So I want to add in all of my account numbers for the salary section first. So I'll right-click on the row beneath it, and I'll select Insert from Segments. And this will be account numbers, so I'll pull in that list of accounts. I'll see every account out there right now. I can pick any of this from this list. And I'm just going to pick, starting on account 1010, the salaries account here. Notice that some of these are posting, some of these are summaries. So I don't need these summaries here. I'll start with the first posting level account. And I'm going to pick all of the 1000s and that last total at the bottom for total salaries. And notice also that that is also a posting level account. So any balances will be able to be stored to the individual accounts, and that total gets posted to this account as well, $19.99. Got all those added there for us. Do the same thing for benefits and taxes. I'll right-click, Insert from Segments. These will be account numbers. And those will be my 2000 accounts. Again, not the summary account. I'll start with the first posting level account. And I'm going to select all of the 2000s and that total row at the bottom. Same thing for supplies and services. Right-click, Insert from Segments. Let's pick the accounts for that section. And those will be all of our 3,000 accounts, not the summary. I'll start with training and go down through all of the 3,000s, including the subtotal. Now this one, when you insert, it will, as a default, add it above the row where I was, but I'll just check this box and have these added at the bottom. Okay, easy done. A little bit of spacing maybe between these different sections, so let me add a blank row between each one of these. And we did formatting for the header rows. Let's also do that for the total rows. I'll highlight all three of those. Double click the color field, background. Let's just make that a pale blue. So however you want these to look, you can select any of those options that you want to for these input screens and reports. Let me save all these changes. So this is a new line set that I can use for our input screens and for our reports. The next thing I need to look at is how do I know what the formulas are for these total salaries row and total taxes and benefits and total supplies and service. So to get those formulas, I'll start a new calculation set and add those three formulas here for us. And calculation sets are under Build, Calculations. I'll start a new one for us. This is our fiscal budget. And it's easy to see all these on one screen with Cascade windows. So I'll just go to Window and change this to Cascade. I'll pull my calculation window to the right. Don't care about this one. I'll close that one. And I just want to be able to see my line set on the left-hand side and all the account numbers involved. And I'll add my formulas right here beside it. And I'll add one row here. This is a calculation that will apply to the entire line from left to right, all the different columns. So my first one is for my total salaries account is $19.99. If that's going to be an account number, I put this here in the formula field with an apostrophe in front of the number. So apostrophe 1999 equals, and whatever the formula should be. I'm just going to do a range from account 1010 through 1160. So apostrophe 1010, 2 periods, and apostrophe 1160. So easy to add those ranges there with 2 periods in the gap there between the first account number in the range and the last one. And if you're referencing an account number in the line set, put an apostrophe in front of those account numbers. I'm going to do the same thing for total taxes and benefits. This is account 2999, and that equals everything from account 2020 through the account number 2100. And then one more for this bottom section for supplies and services. Um, Again, it'll be an L-type calculation. So apostrophe 3999, and that equals everything from account number 3005 through 3400. So pretty easy to fill those in. Just to know a couple of tricks, like the apostrophe has got to be there, and ranges will use the 2 dots in the middle of the range references. Addition, subtraction, division, all easy to add to these calculations. And these 3 formulas here, this is something that the budget administrator would be adding, and your individual budget managers would not be able to override these calculations. I did it for the subtotal rows, but you could do it for any account here, any formulas for the entire row. You could do column calculations here and individual cell calculations too. Let's save this. So far, we made our periods. We used those periods in our new column set definition. We made a line set for a list of our account numbers, and we have 3 formulas here in the calculation set. Now, to use those, we'll match those together in a new input set definition. So I'm going to close out of these windows here. I'm really done with these. Back to the home page for Forecaster. To start that new input set definition window, we'll go to Setup and Budgets and Input Set. And again, this is something that your budget administrator would set up. They can set up one input set template, and then that can apply to every department in the company. So that's by far the easiest method. That's way less maintenance for the budget administrator. But if you need to set up different input sets by department or different people or different companies, that's easily done. You can set up as many different versions of this input set as you need to. So I'm going to go to Setup Budgets and Input Set. A few tabs here across this top. This is all the window that we use to define new input sets. I'll do a new one here. And this will be for our fiscal budget 2017. And again, if you want to use a wizard for creating entities, that's easy checkbox here to walk you through the wizard. So I've got myself a new one started. The label is just a copy of the ID I put in there. You can make changes to that. I'll just space that out a little bit. And at the bottom left is where I can select the column set, the line set, and the calculations that I want to use for this new input screen. We've got lookup buttons for all of these. So input columns, I'll do the lookup window. And I've got that new one. I did FB 2017, Fiscal Budget 2017. And when you select that, on the right-hand side, it shows you a snapshot and some other setting options for that column definition. You see all my periods listed there all the way through June and the total at the bottom. None of these are locked. You might come back eventually and set these up for human resource columns so that you can import your employees and have Forecaster calculate all your payroll, wages, taxes, and benefits and post those to these periods. We're not going to cover that in this session, but we'll do that in a later one for us. Let's also go in here and pick our default line sets. And we set that up as FB underscore input. And then we had those three formulas. We put that in the calculation set in our, it's considered a primary calculation set. I'll do the lookup and find that one. We see that screenshot on the right-hand side of what is in that calculation set. Same thing for the line set. I see the list of accounts and the headers on the right-hand side. Easy options there. There's a few things that I'm going to go onto the options tab here at the top, and I'm going to uncheck some of these other options. We'll cover these in other sessions. But if you do want to add in additional input screens for this fiscal budget, you can add in detail screens for single row input, where you can compare your new budget balances to any kind of comparison. You can compare it to last year's actuals, 2 years ago, averages from the last 3 years, whatever you want to make as a comparison for the new budget. You can add the capital tab where you can budget for new assets. So you just add the assets and Forecaster calculates depreciation expense for those assets and books that to the budget for us. Human resources, import your employees and calculate your wages, taxes, and benefits for those employees. And if you want to break down revenues, an option to add that to these screens as well. For this example, though, we're just going to go with the main input screen, which is a grid-style layout, columns and rows. Okay, we've got that started for us. When I click OK, Forecaster creates this new fiscal budget 2017 for us. Okay, so to see what we've got so far, you can go into Data and then Input. Instead of Budget 2016, let's see how our fiscal budget 2017 looks. Let me open this all the way up for us. A little bit of formatting. We had our header rows for salaries, benefits and taxes, supplies and services. We did the color blue for the headers, the text in white and bold. The subtotals, total salaries, you've got it kind of highlighted in light blue, bolded as well. You got the individual accounts. These were all listed out in our line set. We've got our column definition. We've got July 2016 for this new budget, and that goes all the way through, scroll to the right for us, June 2017 budget and an annual total on the right. All that came in the definition of our column set. Now, we do have some formulas. We added 3 formulas for our subtotal rows for total salaries, benefits and taxes, and the bottom, supplies and services. If I put my cursor on any of those rows, at the very bottom left, I'll see the formula for that row. It's easy to see what that formula is. When your budget managers, when they're looking at this, you're looking at one department at a time. So I can see at the very top, I'm working with this for New York manufacturing. And I can have this same template used for every department I've got out there. So I can go here, work my budget up, save that, and change it to the next department. Let's go over to Chicago. And you see at the very top here, the department change is now 2110 for Chicago manufacturing instead of New York. We're using the same template, same set of accounts, same formula, same columns and fonts and background coloring and shading. So you did one template. Every department can use it. Again, every department could be different if you need to, but it's really easy to set up one template that everybody shares, and it's way less maintenance on the budget administrator if you can do that. Looking at this row here for input, a little bit about this for your budget managers. They can start using this. They can come in here, type in any balances they want to. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see that I type that in. Whenever you press enter or go to any other cell, the formula fills in at the bottom because it runs those calculations automatically for us. And if I scroll to the right, you've already got totals built in here for us where that calculates as well. Your budget managers, they can do those data input here. They cannot change your formulas for your subtotal rows, but they can come into these individual cells, and just like they do in Excel, they can do an equal sign, maybe 5 times 5, or whatever the balance is, to do individual formulas for their cells to help them out during the budget process. But again, they can't change your formulas. They can also add rows here without having to call you, and you don't have to do anything extra. This is already built in. So they can just come in here. If they double click on any of these account rows that are available for inputs, it opens it up for adding lines. There's nothing yet here added. They can go to the plus icon and add additional rows. Forecaster fills in an ID for these rows and a description, which they can type over and change. So since this is travel, this might be a conference in Atlanta and another one in New York. Atlanta happens in November, and New York happens in January. Forecaster calculates the totals. It tracks a difference between what that account row at the top here started as and what they've entered since they opened it up. But when I double click on that travel account, it'll collapse that and summarize all those balances and post it to the real travel account. It also puts that plus icon on the left-hand margin so that you can always see that. You'll know that there's additional lines of detail added to that account. You can double-click, get that expand back out, and show you the details. So your budget manager can already do that here. It's nothing that you had to set up separately as a budget administrator. It's already ready for them. Comments, easy for them to add. You don't have to do anything extra. They just come in here, right-click, and use the icon at the top for memos and add any kind of supporting details here they want to. All this is ready as soon as they type the balances in, the details, the comments, the additional line item details. When they save it, all this money gets posted back in the Forecaster SQL database. The budget administrator can see it right away, and anybody else who has a login access to this particular department or company can see that data as well. I added some
Well, we
money
have a
here
couple
for,
questions that come in.
okay, yep.
All right. When creating lines for the budget, can the lines be imported?
So when creating lines for the budget, can we import those? So the line set that we built, I'll go to that here, I'll open that up. All this, I right-clicked and I inserted from segments. You can do that, but if you do have this information out in an Excel spreadsheet, it's easy to copy and paste from Excel over to here. So if you already got a list of account numbers and descriptions, you can go to Excel, copy it, and paste it here, you're good to go.
And how are department managers restricted to access only their department's budget?
Yep, so right now I've set this up, and the input screen is available to the budget administrator. There are some settings we need to look at for security, so I'll look at that in just a minute for security. So maybe table that question for a minute.
All right, that's it for now.
Okay, thanks, Jason. So yeah, we'll get to security in just a minute. I put some money here for Chicago. Let me switch and add some money back over here for New York as well. Spread methods, I put in $12,000. That spreads back evenly for us. You don't have to do that. Any special setup that's just built into the application spreads that money back evenly for us. Just want to get some money here so we can see it on a report. And we'll save those balances. Okay. So we have got an input screen started. Your budget manager will have that set up and waiting for them. I was going to show you a little bit about security. So you do have to have your users set up inside Forecaster in order for them to log in and access the application. Not a difficult process to set up. We'll go to Setup here and then Security. We've got 4 groups here that we set up inside Forecaster. You've got administrators, you've got analysts, you've got planners, and you have people who are just viewers. And you really control what access analysts and planners can do. Analysts can get to HR detailed data and revenue detailed data. Planners cannot, but you can make changes to that setting as well. Under the groups, we'll expand this with a plus icon, and you'll have your individual budget managers listed here with their user IDs. And then once you add your budget managers to whatever group they should be in, then you say, okay, they should not have access to any department except for these. So this budget planner here has only got access to these two New York departments, New York Operations and New York Production Control. So you add your users here to the groups, and then under the user ID, I would right-click and add assignments and decide which departments that budget manager should have access to. So yeah, great way to control access to that, and an integral part of setting up the budget process. Now, we did set up those budget input screens. We set up the user IDs. When I go to data input, and this drop-down list for a list of input sets, I, as a budget administrator, will see every input set I've ever created, all my prior years, and anything else I put out here as well. Your individual budget managers, you do not want them to necessarily see all those different options. You probably just want them to see whichever one is open. So Fiscal Budget 2017. We set those up in menus inside Forecaster and then assign the menu to the budget managers. Under Build and Menus, got a long list here. I've got one for input. If I double-click that, I can see that this was set up to look at a forecast from 2016 quarter one. I just need to put in here the ID of my new fiscal budget, which was Fiscal Budget 2017. Let me check that to make sure. That's under Setup, Budgets, Input Sets. It is this ID right here for name. Sorry, it's F Budget 2017. I can just copy that and paste that into here. Okay. So this is my menu. I would save that. I go back to Security under Setup and Security, and your individual budget managers, I'll look at their properties, and there's an input menu called Input, and that's the one that I listed out, the Fiscal Budget 2017, as the only one that they should be able to see for input. So we set up our periods, line sets, column sets, calculation set. We have our users inside Forecaster with their appropriate group, which determines what areas of Forecaster they can get to, like HR, capital, or just the main input screen. Then we assign them their different departments that they should have access to. In our menu, we listed what input set we are making available to those users, and then assign that menu to the individual users under their properties. For reporting, we need to set up that as well so that you can have a report that you can open up for the entire company and see everybody's budget totals on one page. So easy done inside Forecaster. All the are listed under Build and Report Worksheet. Every row here is a report definition. I've got an ID for that report, a description for it, what line set it uses, what column set it uses, and if it needs a calculation set. A couple other settings here that we'll fill in if you need them for these different reports. Let me just do a new one here for us. And this will be our 2017 fiscal budget PL detail. So 2017 fiscal budget P&L detail. We can use the same line set, column set, and calculation set that we used for input, or completely different ones. Just to make this quicker, we'll pick the one that we have for input. Same column set, we can use that or a different one. And I don't really need calculations for this report because on the input screens, those balances, the subtotals were posted or saved into the posting level account number, so they're already saved in the database, so I don't really need to recalculate them for the reports here. And I do need a prompt, so when I run this report, I do want to be able to select what individual department or group of departments I want to run this for. So DEP is my description for my department segment, and I just list that there, and we'll save this page. Now, your budget managers, they can have a list of reports under this little icon right here for a selection menu. For us budget administrators, we can come right to this page, find the report, and double-click the label to run that report. In this pop-up window, this is my prompt for department. Forecaster wants to know what department I want to pull back balances from, or a summary of departments. So I can pull back just New York manufacturing, all of New York because that's a summary, or just Chicago. I'll just pick Chicago for the first one. I just put in balances for that supplies and services section. So I'll pull back those balances for us. I want to switch this out and look at the whole company at one time. I've got one that I saved earlier for total corporation, everybody. So these would be the details of balances from Chicago and New York all combined. And all these balances get into this report consolidated as soon as your budget managers click that Save button on the input screens. You do have drill down, so if you run these reports for a summary level, you can double click on these rows and drill down, and I can see that this money came from the East region and this from the Midwest. You can drill down all the way to the lowest level of details here. I see it's all from Chicago operations. Manufacturing, and that's the end of my drill down for this part of that report. Every time I double click, it opens up a new window on top of the last one, so they're all still listed here. I can jump back to any of these if I wanted to. Jason, any questions come in lately?
No more questions at this time.
Thanks, sir. Take us back to our input screen for this new fiscal budget 2017. You can make these templates as simple or as complicated as you need to. It's whatever you need for your budget system at your company. As many columns, as many rows, as many formulas here as you need. Really easy to pull these together. It's all based off of your chart of accounts. We built this one very simple just for the multi-row input screen. If you wanted to come back later and add the detail screens for HR, capital, and revenue, you could add those tabs up here pretty easily. I'll be glad to cover that later with anybody that wants to look at that, or maybe in a different session with Jason. I'm going to wrap up a few things here before we close out the session. And Jason, I was trying to jump back to the PowerPoint slides.
There you go. So I'm
Okay, thank
seeing.
you. So if you do decide to use Forecaster for budgeting, which is a great solution for you, if you've outgrown budgeting inside Excel, this is really your next solution. It's a great way to solve those things if you have a ton of Excel spreadsheets and a ton of managers, and you're having to make those different Excel files and email them out and wait for them to come back. This is a huge step forward. Just getting everything in a SQL database based off of your chart of accounts is a great addition. We've got plenty of information on our website at msxgroup.com. We've got message boards and forums on there for everybody to contribute to. We do training classes, webinars, and consulting services. If you need help with installing Forecaster or setting it up or getting it ready for your budget process, we do that all the time. email me at noah.mosley@msxgroup.com. Be glad to help you out. And we do several different sessions throughout the year. We have 2 coming up in October. That's going to be ACSUC and GPUG Summit down in Tampa. Be leading several classes and sessions down there. So if you're joining everybody else in Tampa, email me, let me know that you'll be there. We'll be glad to see you. We've got a booth out there. And we also have our user forums twice a year. We have a whole day for Forecaster. We'll start off in the morning with our basic sessions and build on the complexity of that throughout the day. People log in and out anytime they want to. We had the first one in March this year. We'll have the next one in probably November. Those are on our website at msxgroup.com/upcoming forums. Jason, I'm going to stick around, see if you have any other questions that have come in, or if you have anything else you want to announce. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
All right, excellent. Thanks as always, Noah. Always a great event. And I'm glad we were able to do sort of these back-to-back sessions today. It was a good format. We'd love to know what you thought of today's event. You should see a survey that will pop up after we conclude today, and we really do, and anytime you close out, we really do appreciate that feedback. I don't see any more questions here, Noah, so I think we can wrap up. We are recording today's event. We'll be making the 2 presentations available quite soon, and we'll alert you all to that. You have Noah's contact information, and feel free to, I guess, send any further questions to him directly. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up. Noah, thanks again for taking the time to present to all these folks today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, that concludes today's event. Have a great day, everybody.